He returned from abroad and found his wife begging on the street. What he did next will. After 5 long years working under the burning sun of Dubai, Arham finally returned home with a heart full of dreams. Every exhausting shift, every lonely night in his small shared room, he had survived by imagining this day. He pictured Zoya waiting at the door, her eyes shining with tears, her smile welcoming him back into the life he had worked so hard to secure. He had sent money home every single month without fail, trusting that slowly but surely their future was being built brick by brick. But when he reached the small rented house where they once lived, his excitement turned into confusion. A stranger opened the door. The landlord appeared behind him and casually explained that Zoya had moved out months ago because she couldn't pay the rent. The words didn't make sense. Arham felt as if the ground had shifted beneath his feet. He had never missed a transfer. He had sacrificed everything to make sure she never struggled. His calls went unanswered. Her phone was switched off. Neighbors avoided his eyes, offering vague responses before quickly shutting their doors. Fear crept into his chest, tightening with every passing minute. He walked through the familiar streets in a daze, trying to piece together what could have possibly gone wrong. As the evening call to prayer echoed through the air, and the market lights flickered on, Arham wandered toward the busiest intersection of the town. Vendors shouted, rickshaws honked, and people rushed past him. That was when he saw a woman sitting on the pavement near a broken wall, her clothes worn and dusty, her scarf loosely covering her face. A small metal bowl rested in front of her, holding a few scattered coins. Something about her posture felt painfully familiar. His heart began to pound. He stepped closer, unable to breathe. When she slowly lifted her face, their eyes met. It was Zoya. Her once bright face looked thinner, her cheeks hollow. Her eyes shadowed with exhaustion and quiet despair. For a second, neither of them moved. The noise of the street faded into silence. The bowl slipped from her trembling hands and clattered against the ground. "Arham?" she whispered, disbelief and fear mixing in her voice. He felt his chest crack open. This was not the life he had imagined for her. Not after all those years apart. Tears filled his eyes as he took off his jacket and gently placed it around her shoulders. In that moment, standing in the middle of a crowded street, Arham realized that the home he had dreamed of returning to was gone, and whatever had happened in his absence had shattered far more than just their plans. Zoya sat across from Arham in the small cafe, her hands wrapped tightly around a cup of tea she hadn't touched. The warm light above them only made her pale face look more fragile. Arham couldn't stop staring at her, trying to understand how the confident, laughing woman he had left behind had been reduced to begging on the street. His heart was torn between anger and guilt. "I sent money every month," he said quietly, his voice shaking despite his effort to stay calm. "I worked double shifts, Zoya. I barely slept. Where did it go?" She lowered her eyes, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I never received it, Arham, not even once." The words felt like a blow to his chest. "That's impossible. I transferred it through my cousin's account. He promised he would handle everything." Zoya swallowed hard. "For the first few months I thought maybe there was a delay. I kept waiting. I didn't want to worry you. You sounded so tired every time we spoke. I thought maybe work was difficult and money was tight." Arham shook his head. "I never missed a payment." She nodded slowly. "When the rent was overdue, I sold my jewelry. The bangles your mother gave me, the necklace from our wedding. I told the landlord the money was coming. But it never did." Her voice cracked. "After that, I started selling furniture." One by one, Arham felt shame crawl through him. While he had been dreaming of surprising her with savings, she had been fighting to survive alone. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked, almost pleading. Zoya looked at him, pain flickering in her eyes. "Because I didn't want to break you. You were already sacrificing so much, and I was scared." She hesitated.
"I started thinking maybe you had changed."
"Maybe you had found a better life there. Maybe I wasn't part of your plans anymore." The accusation wasn't harsh, but it hurt more than anger ever could. "I never stopped loving you," Arham whispered. "Not for a second." Silence stretched between them, heavy with misunderstandings and pride. Zoya wiped her tears. "Oh, when the landlord forced me out, I had nowhere to go. I searched for work. But without references or money for proper clothes, no one hired me. I tried everything before sitting on that street today. Arham's jaw tightened as realization dawned. Someone had betrayed them both. This isn't your fault, he said firmly, his eyes darkening with resolve. And I promise you, whoever did this will answer for it. For the first time that night, Zoya saw something stronger than heartbreak in his expression. She saw determination. The next morning, Arham barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Zoya sitting on the pavement, her dignity crushed under the weight of betrayal. By sunrise, his heartbreak had hardened into something sharper, resolve. He asked Zoya to stay at a modest guest house he had booked for a few days. Trust me, he told her gently. I need to fix this. He went straight to his cousin Rashid's house. Rashid opened the door with a wide, artificial smile. Arham, you're back from Dubai. You should have told me. Come in, come in. Arham stepped inside without returning the warmth. The house looked different. Newly painted walls, expensive furniture. A large television mounted proudly in the living room. Rashid had owned a small grocery shop before Arham left. Now it seemed like business had magically flourished. We need to talk, Arham said, his voice steady but cold. Rashid laughed nervously. Of course, about what? About the money I've been sending for the last 5 years. The smile faded slightly. What about it? Arham placed printed bank statements on the table. Every transfer went into your account. You promised to hand it to Zoya. She never received a single rupee. For a second, Rashid said nothing. Then he shrugged casually. Maybe she's lying. Maybe she spent it. Arham's fists clenched. Don't insult her. Rashid's tone shifted. You weren't here, Arham. Things are complicated. Sometimes money gets used. I plan to return it. Used? Arham's voice rose. That money was for my wife. She was thrown out of her house. She was begging on the street. The word begging seemed to echo in the room. Rashid's wife peeked from the hallway, sensing the tension. Neighbors began gathering outside as their voices grew louder. I invested it, Rashid finally snapped. In my shop, I needed capital. I thought once it grew, I'd pay her back. It was temporary. Temporary? Arham's eyes burned with disbelief. She sold her wedding jewelry. She starved. The weight of the truth hung heavy in the air. Rashid tried to argue, but the evidence was undeniable. Faced with the threat of police action and public humiliation, his confidence crumbled. He admitted everything, how greed had whispered excuses, how he convinced himself it was just a loan. But to Arham it was betrayal. Within hours, Arham filed a formal complaint. Family elders tried to intervene, urging him to keep it private to protect the family name. But Arham refused. Family doesn't steal from family, he said firmly. As he walked out of the house, he didn't feel victorious. He felt changed. The man who had left for Dubai was trusting and hopeful. The man who returned understood that love must be protected, not just from strangers, but sometimes from blood itself. And this time, he would protect Zoya at any cost. Months passed, and life slowly began to breathe again for Zoya. The wounds of the past were still there, but they no longer bled every day. Arham kept his promise and never left her side, not even for a moment. He handled the legal matters quietly, recovered part of the stolen money, then focused on what mattered most, rebuilding the woman who had been broken, not just their lost savings. At first, Zoya struggled to sleep. Loud noises startled her. Crowded places made her anxious. Some nights she woke up crying, remembering the cold pavement and the way people looked through her, as if she didn't exist. Arham would sit beside her, holding her hand until her breathing slowed, reminding her gently that those days were over. One afternoon, he took her to a small, empty shop on a modest street. The paint was peeling and dust covered the floor. Zoya looked confused. Why are we here? She asked softly. Arham smiled. Because you once told me you wanted your own clothing store. You said you wanted to design dresses that made women feel confident again. Her eyes filled with tears. That was just a dream. No, he replied firmly. It's a beginning. Using his savings and the recovered money, Arham helped her turn that broken shop into something beautiful. Zoya chose the colors. She arranged the shelves. Slowly, with trembling hands, she began stitching again. At first, she doubted herself, questioning every design, but Aram believed enough for both of them. When the shop finally opened, Zoya stood behind the counter, nervous and unsure. The first customer walked in, then another. Compliments followed. Someone ordered a custom dress. Word spread. Weeks turned into months. The shop became a place of warmth and respect. People didn't see a beggar anymore. They saw a talented woman with strength in her eyes. One evening, as they closed the shop together, Zoya looked around at what they had built. The fear that once lived inside her had softened into quiet confidence. She turned to Arham, her voice steady but emotional. When I was on that street, I thought my life was over. I thought I had lost everything. Arham held her hands. You didn't lose yourself. That's what matters. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but this time they weren't from pain. You didn't just save me, she said. You respected me when I felt worthless. You chose me again. Arham smiled gently. I never stopped choosing you. The past would always be part of their story, but it no longer defined them. From betrayal and silence, they had built trust. From loss, they had created purpose. And together, they stepped into a future shaped not by what was taken from them, but by what they refused to give up.